I'm going to show you how to use Google Sheets like an Excel spreadsheet, and what we're going to use it for today is to record data and do some basic data analysis. So we're going to start with setting up a data table. So you want to do this right before you start taking data so you're ready to just insert your numbers as you're doing your experiment. And what we're going to do first is start by giving it a meaningful title. This way, when we do multiple data tables, we'll know which one corresponds to what data set we took. So for this case, I'm going to record data where I find the mass of different volumes of a liquid. So I'm going to title it mass versus volume. Next, what we need to do is identify the independent variable, and we're going to use the first column for that data. We want to title the column with the variable name, and we always want to include the units. You should know how many data points that you're going to take in your data run, and be sure to change the independent variable in equal increments. So for instance, I would do 10 milliliters, 20 milliliters, 30 milliliters, etc. But you don't want to put units on your numbers in your data table. The column is already labeled with units. This is important when we do the plots and other stuff like that because we just want the numbers. We don't want units attached to it because that will mess up any equation we use to analyze the data or anything like that. Next, we're going to set up a column for your dependent variable. And in this case, I'm using mass in grams. And ideally, you want to do more than one trial. So you would use the next columns for multiple trials. Okay, now we have a data table. Let's see how the independent and dependent variables are related. We can create a scatter plot to do this. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go to the top and you're going to click on the Insert tab and go down to Charts. You're going to click on Charts and they're going to suggest a chart. Usually it's not the one you want. And today what we're going to do is we're going to select a scatter plot. So you're going to go over to the tab at the top that's titled Chart Type and scroll down and select Scatter. Okay, don't insert the plot yet. So far we have just dots on an XY plot. What we need to do is to make sure that our data is represented in a meaningful way. We're going to start by giving the plot a title. You can use the same title as your data table. And this is going to help later on when we have multiple data sets so we can easily see which plot corresponds to which data table. You can change where the legend is located, and for now what I'm going to do is just turn it off. Next, we need to label the axes. So go to horizontal and give it a label. I suggest using the same information that you used when you set up your data table and you labeled your columns, and don't forget units. So now you're going to change horizontal to left vertical, and you're going to label your vertical or dependent variable axes. Now, we usually want to fit the data to a known function, like a linear or an exponential or something like that. And for this data set, we want to fit a linear function. It's clearly linear, or that's what I'm assuming at this point. So we're going to go do a fit. And what we're going to do that is go down to the very bottom of our options screen, and we're going to go find trendline. There's a drop-down menu, and you can select linear from that menu. So we could see how good our fit is by using the r-squared value. So you're going to check the r-squared box, but right now it doesn't show up on the graph. So what we need to do to see it is turn the legend back on. Go back up to the top and turn the legend back on. Okay, so now you can see that it's got a pretty generic name for your trend line. So what we're going to do is give it a better name. Click Insert and your plot will show up on your sheet. You can move it around if you need to, and I would ideally just place it right next to your data table. Okay, now oftentimes we actually want the equation for the best fit, so what we're going to do now is add that to the plot. You can go back up to your plot and go to the small triangle at the upper right, and what you're going to do now is select Advanced Options from your drop-down list. Now you're going to find where it says Label, and you're going to change it from Custom to Use Equation. And now when you click Insert, you'll see that you've got your equation shown. And that's really nice because when we do our data analysis, we want to see that equation because that's going to give us information like the slope and the y-intercept. And there you go. Now you can use Google Sheets to take data and make plots. Again, be very specific when you make your plots and be sure to label everything. That way it's very clear later on for you or your lab partner or your grader or somebody else who's looking at your data what data tables you have and where the plots are that correspond to those data tables.